Good evening and welcome to Coach World TV. I'm Terry Yoffe, and tonight as my guest I have the very talented, very creative Steve Cherches. Hi,
Thanks,
Steve.
Terry. Hi, Terry. Great to see you.
Same here. I'm going to give you a little background on Steve. Steve is the co-founder and COO of Big Blue Gumball. That's a mouthful. And he is a learning and development consultant, trainer, facilitator, and coach with an expertise in visual thinking and visual communication. And that's what we're going to be talking about tonight.
Yeah.
So we talked about this at dinner, but I'm going to ask the question again. Big Blue Gumball.
Big Blue Gumball.
It's a mouthful. And as I said to you at dinner, when I think of that, I think of the gumball machines. You know, those machines that sit outside of diners or wherever, where they've got all the colored gumballs in them.
Right.
And, you know, you kind of put in some money, you turn it, and out comes a go. And from the minute I had met your brother, Todd, who I interviewed last November, and he told me the name of the company, that's the visualization that I cannot get out of my mind.
Right.
It kind of sticks with me.
Well, that's perfect, because that's exactly what we wanted. We want, and sticks with you, right? It's like literally sticks with you.
Yeah.
So, Big Blue Gumball, and part of what we like about it is that it is visual, and it brings up different connotations and different memories for different people.
So what do you get when you say the name of the company? What do people tell you?
Well, the first thing that happens is they ask us why. So why Big Blue Gumball? And Todd and I Todd, my partner, and also my business partner and brother.
Right.
So, you know, we're often asked why, and we say we need to come up with some incredible story behind it for why it's Big Blue Gumball. But basically, years ago, we had talked about starting an internet company. As it turned out, the company wasn't funded, but we had the name Big Blue Gumball through conversation and brainstorming. And then we went on and different careers, and we both wound up kind of in the training and coaching world. And we thought it was time, once we decided to form the company together, we thought it was time to kind of resurrect the name Big Blue Gumball. And thought about variations of it, but we wanted to just call it. We just stuck with, no pun intended, stuck with Big Blue Gumball.
And what's people's reaction to it? I mean, you know, no, I told you what mine is. What are people's thoughts? Because it is an out-of-the-box name of a company.
Yeah, the reaction is usually interesting. First of all, there's a curiosity about it, why and where did it come from. But the great thing is, again, people hear gumball, Big Blue Gumball, and it reverts, you know, people think about their childhood, or they think about turning the quarter in the machine, or asking, there's probably 5 cents for a dime at some point. But different people have different memories of it. And so for us, it's great to hear the interpretation of it. And it's also, since we do a lot of things around visual and around metaphor and things like that, it really plays into what we do. So it's usually positive. I would say it's usually overwhelmingly positive. And I'm not sure the stats, but I think 1 out of every million people is not entirely comfortable with it. We don't know why, but we're going to check. We're going to do more studies and figure out. But people generally respond positively. And to us, it represents, it's blue, it's the world, it's fun, but it sticks with you. And hopefully our training kind of represents who we are as trainers and as a company.
So now that we've gotten through the Big Blue Gumball, LLC, I had.
Or Big Blue Gumball Consulting at one point, as I drink from my Big Blue Gumball mug.
Tell us a little bit about visual thinking and visual communication.
So visual thinking. So a lot of people have different ideas of what visual thinking is. To me, it's any opportunity to use visuals, and that can be images in PowerPoint. That could be images from anywhere, really. Drawing, sketching. A lot of times we read the newspaper and we see statistics and graphics that give us information and data. Anything that helps you make sense of things, make sense of the world, help you figure out how to problem solve, communicate, all of these things. So it's really using some sort of visual technique, and there are many. Some way of using a visual technique to better understand things, to better communicate, to problem solve, and things like that.
And how does that help people in their business life and their everyday life?
Yeah, well, the world gets more complex, right? And information is coming at us faster and faster. And so if we're trying to make sense of things and we're trying to get a handle on things and understand things, we've got to find tools to do that. And a lot of times communication, just speaking to someone, falls short of people understanding. So if we can look at graphics or we can look at a map, and we've been doing this stuff for years, we've been doing this stuff forever, and now it's just being conscious and thoughtful about how can I apply it to what I'm trying to accomplish. So we see it all the time. When we go to the restroom, we look for the icon of a man or woman. When we're driving in the street, we don't have to see the word stop to know that we have to stop at the stop sign. It's red, right? It's that octagon shape.
Right.
And so we see it all the time. We're very used to consuming it and responding to it, but we almost forget that something had to be created in order to do that. And so from our perspective, being able to more effectively use the tools and being able to say, hey, I want to convey this message, and it might not be clear, so I can find an additional way to make it clear and convey that message to someone else.
So visual thinking and visual communication. You do a lot with organizations and different, I guess, venues. How does it work? How do you train around it or consult around it?
Yeah, I think there are two things we do. One is that we use visuals and we use visual approaches to help people learn, to help people understand. Within our training, so we do workshops and professional development seminars around everything from presentation skills to leadership, management, and everything in between. And what we do is we use visual tools, we use models, we use drawing as a technique for better understanding and for people to help see things that they might not normally see, make connections they might not normally connect. So that's one part. And the other part is helping other people understand that visual communication exists, that there are various tools that they can actually use to make sense of things and also to help them communicate and problem solve and things like that. So it's kind of twofold. It's us using them as a device and also teaching other people that it exists, that they can use it well. In a lot of different ways. So if you're a public speaker and you're trying to deliver the most impactful talk as possible, often we see people using PowerPoint that actually clouds the message rather than clarify the message. So we see bullet points and we see paragraphs in PowerPoint, and what we're trying to do is use more visual imagery to tell a story visually so that the message becomes more clear and more understandable and more relatable. I think humans react emotionally to imagery and things like that. If we can touch people on an emotional level, then I think we do a better job of communicating the message.
And I think that when you watch a presentation of PowerPoint, you get so lost in as you said, all the bullet points that you don't even retain them, and I think most people's eyes glaze over because they're not very, it's not very interesting, if you will, and the person doing it can also, especially if they're reading from the PowerPoint. So actually, I had met Todd through a friend of mine and Steve when they did a presentation for HR New York. And it was fabulous. It was really well done. And, at that point, I said, you know what? I have to call upon you. And Todd and I got to talking, and I interviewed him in November, and we set up for you and Todd to present to our ICF NYC chapter this coming Wednesday.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it.
And if you, I'm going to have a plug right here, if you want to sign up and register and come to see Todd and Steve talk about visual thinking and visual communication and actually put it into action, you can go to our website, www.icfnyc.org, and you can register for Wednesday.
Yeah, I think it would be great. We're looking forward to it. Hopefully, we'll get a lot of people who are either have never heard of visual thinking and they'll get an introduction to what it is, or people who might know about it and want to find out a way to use it both as a presenter and as a coach. And it's probably rare that you get to see brothers speak as well.
That's
so
right, the
added
dynamic
bonus.
duo.
Yeah. Sometimes we invite our parents along, so you never know. You never know what's
Oh,
going to
boy.
happen. But one of the things is, and factually and biologically, we can't read things and listen to someone and fully take in both pieces of information at the same time. So that means one has to win out. And typically when that happens, the one that wins out is visual. So we start reading and we're no longer listening to what the speaker's saying.
Okay.
And so that's why when you see paragraphs and people reading off their slides and you see bullet points, you see a presenter competing against their PowerPoint and their visuals. And what we teach people to do is how to not battle your PowerPoint, but have it there to impact people emotionally and intellectually and actually support your message and what you're trying to say.
So you took some little notes and as I said, hieroglyphics. It feels like some of this is going back to the caveman days and hieroglyphics. So we talked about that at dinner. So you want to show?
I think that is the case. I think in some ways it goes back to hieroglyphics. I think human beings are drawn to draw, I guess. We have a long history of drawing things on cave walls to explain things and make sense of things and things like that. So even for me, something simple. So, you know, we all have trips to go on. Sometimes they're business trips, sometimes they're personal trips, and a lot of us write a packing list.
That's me.
Right? So yeah,
I do that.
What do I need for my trip, right? And you probably have your computer maybe and a flash drive and a remote and all these different things. And so I wrote up a packing list for myself and realized I could probably read it a lot quicker and could judge whether or not I had what I needed if I drew a little image of each thing that I needed to bring.
So adorable.
So, you know, if you draw a little box that looks like a computer and then you draw something that looks like an iPad, a camera, a flip camera, a hat, a baseball glove, whatever it is, your shoes, your glasses, don't forget your glasses. And it really, so at a very quick glance, I could see a picture and I could say, you know, did I put that in my bag or did I not? Do I still need it? We could read the words and that's fine. But if you think about how long it might take you to read the words and figure, it's almost like it's an extra step to go from the object to a word for the object and then back to whether or not I have it. So if I can look at a bunch of pictures and say, yeah, I forgot my glasses, but I have my water bottle and my camera. It's a lot quicker.
I have to say, when I put a list together, it's on a piece of paper this big, and I just make nothing fancy like that. Just a list of what I need. I don't divide it up into all the different
categories.
Into categories.
Well, I think that's a Cherches brothers thing. I think we have a tendency to kind of try to make sense of things. So I've got my sports section, and I've got my my computer section and things like that. And there are even, and I think. We're starting to see this. There are apps on iPhone and things that will are packing lists that use visuals as, to remember whether or not you've packed, whether or not you've forgotten things. So, I like to do it on paper and to draw it out myself. But there are actually, we see it all the time now. They're developing apps that can help us pack and help us do things in life that also have a visual component to help us do it quicker and easier.